Hello, everybody. Welcome to the YNTAAY Minis. I'm Chris Smith, and today we are honoring Agnes Nixon, the great queen of daytime dramas, whose birthday is December 10th, her 95th birthday. Now, true, Agnes Nixon left us last year and went back to the other side, but we are still honoring her on this anniversary of her birth. She was born in 1922. Can you believe that? And the last thing that she ever wrote was this book, My Life to Live. And I believe Susan Lucci said that Agnes wrote it by hand on legal pads. Isn't that amazing?
I know somebody else who writes on legal pads.
Who?
You.
That's right, everybody. That's Gio back there behind the camera. And Gio loved Agnes Nixon just as much as I do.
Yes, I do.
We always wanted to meet her, maybe even work with her.
Mm-hmm.
And
because this was my favorite show.
yes, he's got
But I
soft
started watching this show. And then it became all new children, but I stayed with this show all the way to the end.
So Agnes created One Life to Live in 1968. It lasted till 2012 and then came back on the internet in 2013. She did All My Children from 1970 until 2011. She didn't write it the whole time, but she created it, and it came back on the internet in 2013. And she did Loving, which was on from 1983 to 1995 until it turned into The City for 2 more years. Now, Agnes Nixon was, she was this, in the burial garment business is what her father wanted her to go into. That was his business. And, you know, I've always wondered, what is a burial garment?
No clue.
I thought that people just buried people in their own garments. But I guess back in the day, you had to have a special business just for that. So the father took her to Erna Phillips, who was had created soap opera and wrote all these radio soaps. Well, she was a tough lady, and he just knew that if his daughter took her sample script to Erna Phillips, that she'd kick her right back to the burial garment world. And wouldn't you know, Erna read the thing in front of Agnes, out loud, and then hired her on the spot. So the father was probably like, who will help sell my burial garments now? But anyway.
And we're both hoping we get an Erna Phillips meeting sometime.
I know. We would love to meet with her, even her skeleton. Mm-hmm. No, that would be scary.
Or yours.
Oh,
no.
He's just kidding. Agnes.
Speaking of skeletons, like my favorite storyline on All My Children was when Eben Japes kidnapped, he's now known as Billy Clyde Tuggle.
He was a pimp.
He kidnapped Estelle and then put her in a coffin and in a hearse and was going to bury her alive. And I was hooked. I was probably in first grade.
First grade and watching All My Children. I love it. Now, you know, I was always an NBC guy with Days of Our Lives in Another World, but I also watched One Life to Live and All My Children. I loved that Erica Kane. I could relate to her and her mother Mona arguing back and forth because me and Betty always argued back in the day before the new writers took over and made Betty and I get along much better.
Inspired by Agnes Nixon.
Yes. But, you know, she was, she won 5 Daytime Emmys for writing and a Lifetime Achievement Award. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm. Well deserved.
Yes. And she was a writer early on for Guiding Light. She was the head writer on that. I just found this out today. I'd forgotten. From 1959 to 1965.
Jeez.
That is a long run. She did, I think, the first 13 weeks of Search for Tomorrow. She did As the World Turns, and she did Another World as the head writer from 1965 to 1967. And she had already created All My Children, and I believe her Bible for it got lost, and but then it turned up later. She had taken it on a trip and it was in a suitcase. This was a terrifying story. Why you don't carry something like
I know.
that?
Why didn't she just put it on a tablet and back it up?
She did, a legal tablet. But yeah, so the luggage got lost, and I think it was like lost for 6 or 8 weeks or something. It's in this book.
Oh my God.
But so she thought it was gone. Anyway, it turned up again, but thank goodness. But then
It's fate.
she created One Life to Live before, after she had created All My Children, but One Life to Live came, in 2 years before. So,
It's the best.
but the funny thing was, for Another World, she made Rachel and Ada, her mother, she modeled them after her Erica Kane and Mona characters that she had created. But I loved so many of the characters on both of those. These were her big shows. And I loved, of course, I said Erica. I loved Greg and Jenny. Why'd you have to kill Jenny? You all remember Jenny got blown up on their honeymoon on a jet ski. There was a bomb that was rigged to kill Greg because this guy was in love with Jenny and Greg had won her away. And then...
What was his name? Was it Tony?
Yeah, Tony.
Yeah.
And both Tony and Greg were on the shore while Jenny was waiting out on the lake. And then it's like...
And if you watch it, it's so cheesy. Even
it's
Kim
cheesy,
Delaney
it's on location, so
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to them. But
even Kim Delaney makes fun of it.
Yeah. But Jenny never came back from the dead.
Nope.
Of all the people that you needed to
Oh,
come
and
back
Carol
from the
Burnett
dead.
was so upset. That's why she said,
Yeah,
Agnes
Carol Burnett
Nixon,
did a special.
why'd you kill Jenny?
She was like, why'd you kill Jenny? Carol Burnett was one of their biggest fans, and All My Children had lots of big fans.
Yeah.
None bigger than me. And oh, and Gussie, my friend Gussie, who you've seen on this show, she would always get up for All My Children, and now she can't wake up in the mornings because there's no All My Children to come on.
So she sleeps around the clock.
So she just sleeps 24 hours a day until I wake her to come to theater. I also loved Angie and Jessie, didn't you? And remember when Jessie and Jenny ran away to New York City?
Oh, with Mrs. Gonzalez,
Mrs.
who owned the
Gonzalez
apartment.
she was
and
the
loved
landlady.
Opal.
Opal, my good
Phoebe.
and Langley and Wallingford. Langley Wallingford. I always call my friend Pete Langston Langley Wallingford. He loves it. But yes, Agnes Nixon created all of these worlds: Pine Valley, Landview
with
Torrance,
the Buchanans.
all
and don't forget about Vicky Buchanan, or
Yes.
Vicky Lord Buchanan.
Yes, Erica Slezak played Vicky.
And Nikki Smith.
And Nikki was her split personality, and then in later years she splintered into like 7 different people. She was,
and then we had Dorian.
Dorian, yes,
and Draven, my best friend Draven's favorite, Tina Lord Roberts.
Tell the story, Gio, about when you were on the bus.
Oh, yes. Okay, so my very first conversation with my best friend, who actually lives right upstairs, up there, he and I were on the bus as kids, 6th grade, or 7th grade, and he was in a seat ahead of me, and he was with a girl that they were talking about soaps, and they leaned over to my seat, and they were like, "What soaps do you watch?" I was like, "All My Children, One Life to Live, Santa Barbara." And he was like, "You watch One Life to Live? Who's your favorite character?" And I go, "I like Joy." Joy, who is like such a supporting role. She's
not even on the cover.
She should be right where Vicky is. She was the most important of the O'Neills.
Here's some people on the back, and I bet she's not
Cassie,
even back there.
who's back there? Oh, yeah, no, she's nowhere to be found. RJ, Gannon is.
These books came out before the last year's, and I wish they were complete with, all the stories.
But Joy was the youngest of the O'Neill sisters, so.
Yes.
But I loved her and her big red hair.
What was her sister Dee Dee?
Dee Dee, who got electrocuted.
She got electrocuted on a fence. She was with Bo Buchanan.
That was one of the best.
And, it was so sad. She was like... Zzz,
and then they played that song by Breathe.
Oh.
Hands to Heaven. And I had that on video, but I can't find it.
if anybody has it out there, put it up on YouTube. Maybe it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Agnes Nixon, oh, we always loved her. And she seemed like such a sweet, soft-spoken woman. You know, she even appeared on her own shows. She played, I wrote it down here somewhere. She played Aggie on All My Children. Just, you know, little guest appearances. And then at the end of One Life to Live, she played Agnes Dixon, the creator of Fraternity Row, which was their soap within a soap.
And look at, speaking of One Life to Live, Todd.
That long hair that I couldn't stand.
Todd raped Marty Sabra.
They had a big gang rape story. Now, Agnes didn't really have a lot to do with One Life to Live in the later years. She would always go back to All My Children.
All new children. Create more new children.
Yes, Geo always called it All New Children because they were always bringing in all these new people, and for a while they had a lot of turnover on their
with their cast.
Yeah, and their writers.
It was
very strange.
Producers. Oh, here's Phoebe and Langley.
Wallingford.
I love it. Oh, Brooke and Tom.
Brooke we loved, and
Brooke and Tom. We love these characters.
And Ellen, and the Glamorama,
and Hillary. That's right.
There's another book that I got when I was a little child called All Her Children, and it was by Dan Wakefield, the real-life story of America's favorite soap opera. And he sort of follows the show around and, you know, sort of like not even a day in the life of Agnes Nixon. It was like a lot of he stayed around for a while and observed them.
Wow.
I just love books like this.
She needed her own reality show.
You know, I'm writing a musical with Gussie about a soap opera. We call it, we'll call it Turmoil to you, because that's what it's called. But you'll be hearing more about that later. But soap operas are so near and dear to my heart, but no one more so than Agnes Eckhart Nixon. So thank goodness that she didn't go into the burial garment business, because who knows if we would be talking about, boy, we love those tuxedos there.
Yeah, good job, Agnes.
I don't know what they do with that. Oh, Bianca. Remember when Bianca came out as a lesbian? She was Erica's daughter. My goodness. And Agnes knew how to take a character that was like a major family member on the show, who you saw her born and you saw her grow up, and she always said that the last taboo, the last frontier was like homosexuality. So, yes, so they did that with Bianca.
For your LGBTQ community, you say thank you,
Thank you, Agnes Nixon. But I love that storyline with Chris Bruno, who played the teacher. He was Laurel's, what was his name? Laurel's brother. Laurel.
That was when I left.
You weren't watching.
Too many new people.
Yeah, but that was a good story. And Trevor was with Laurel.
Yeah.
And her brother turned out to be a gay. and Opal and Palmer, they weren't angry, but they were like, he shouldn't be teaching our children. They didn't even have children in that school.
And Palmer, the actor, James Mitchell, was gay in real life.
That's right, but we didn't know that at the time.
No.
But I hope it's true, because I don't want to spread rumors.
No, it is.
Okay, cool. But yes, so it was such a good storyline. That was one that I really watched. But yes, I just loved Agnes Nixon so much. And I keep this picture hanging in my bedroom. Used to, whenever people, movers and things, would come to my bedroom, they would say, "Is that your mother?"
And you were like, yes.
No.
No offense, Betty.
No, I would never give up Betty for even Agnes Nixon. Not even Vicky Lord, because Betty's the best. But Agnes Nixon is good too. Oh, and she was a mother of 4 children as well. And she was with her husband until he passed in 1996.
Wow.
So, but yes, so happy anniversary of your life, Agnes Nixon. We'll probably come back at the anniversary of your 100th year of you and I.
Oh, totally.
And we'll talk some more about some other fun stories. Okay, so
happy birthday,
happy
Agnes
birthday
Nixon,
and from all of us, Gio and Chris, and even Willie Tux has to say hello.
and my sister Kim, who introduced me to soap operas. We thank you for giving us the ability to create and share our own stories.
Yes, soap
You
operas
lit
bring
the way
people
for us.
together.
They do.
And yes, okay. Farewell, everybody. Happy birthday, Agnes Nixon. Goodbye.